Hello, my dear friends. Today we are going to see the remarkable story of a Danish volunteer of the Waffen SS Viking, Erik Brodrup. His warpath is unusual, such a feeling that he lived several lives. His military service began in the Danish cavalry, then the Waffen SS, ski raiding troops on the Eastern Front, and an airborne company. After the war, he became a civil aviation pilot, instructor. Also, he served in the Canadian Armed Forces, in flying and reconnaissance ground units. It's astonishing. Now, before I dive into today's topic, I want to show you how you can secure your life on the internet. This is actually fairly easy to do, thanks to today's sponsor, NordVPN. After you install the software by visiting nordvpn.com/militaryclub, you can turn your protection on with just a simple click. Wi-Fi networks, especially free public Wi-Fi, can be compromised by criminals to intercept your data. The bad guys quietly insert themselves between you and your destination, which lets them spy on your data, and even alter it. You want to surf the web at your local cafe, so you connect to the cafe-free Wi-Fi network without thinking. But it's a trap. It's a fake network set up as part of an evil twin man-in-the-middle attack. While you're browsing, criminals will harvest any sensitive data you enter. My friend from Florida once noticed the whole line of unfamiliar small amount withdrawals from his banking account that have been going for weeks. After the investigation, he called the number related to these withdrawals. The voice on the other side replied that her kids need to eat too. Later he said about having a protection, "I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it." Encrypt your online traffic with NordVPN at all times to keep their naughty fingers out. If you want to keep your personal life safe and secure, NordVPN is offering Military Club viewers a huge discount with the purchase of a 2-year plan plus 4 extra months. Try it risk-free now with a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can sign up right now by using the links in the description or pinned comment and get the exclusive NordVPN deal. Well now, let's begin. While I was still in school in Denmark, I served in a paramilitary unit called Konungens Livjægerkor, meaning something like Royal Rifles. This unit was established in 1801 to fight against the British. When I got drafted, I chose the cavalry as I had previously seen a movie called The Bengal Lancers, probably meaning the Hollywood movie The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, 1935. I began my training on October 22, 1937, in the Gardehuse Regiment. This regiment was nothing but a bunch of snobs. Perhaps I must have offended many of them because at the beginning of the war in September 1939, I was not given a promotion to the rank of junior lieutenant. Then my service was ended with the Germans' arrival in April 1940. At that time, our captain made it clear to everyone what the SS Verfügungstruppe and the Waffen SS were. Then I also found out that the Waffen SS recruiting office had been established in Copenhagen to take recruits for the SS Norrland Regiment. I had nothing except my military service background, so I decided that nothing would happen to me for asking. So I went to enlist once again, wearing a Sam Brown-style belt and spurs on my boots. I was examined, checked out, and the conclusion was that I wasn't so bad as a soldier. And for a start, I was offered the rank of SS Standard-Junker and the opportunity to join an officer training course at the SS Junkerschule in Bad Tölz in Bavaria. I had signed the contract by April 25, 1941. When Operation Barbarossa began, all the Danish Nazis were eager to gain their own share of glory and established Freikorps in Denmark. By then, I had already been ordered to leave for the military school, but the order was cancelled at the last minute and I ended up at Denmark. In fact, I didn't mind it that much, but the Danish Nazis grinded my gears. I never liked politicians, whom I considered to be the lowest possible form of living matter existence, just as much as pimps and preachers. Whenever I had to vote, I would vote for the party that favored the military. Otherwise, I didn't find the political parties to be of any use. These were my reasons for joining the SS. In fact, I went to Germany because the Germans treated the soldiers right. I was a professional soldier, and I'm bloody proud that being a foreigner, I got an officer's rank in one of the best divisions that ever existed, and I've never had any regrets or remorse about it. Sometimes soldiers were assigned to the Waffen SS without any special approval, simply because their qualifications and abilities were required in these units. Those who served in the police force were often assigned to the Waffen SS to do the same service. it was not a problem for Reichsführer SS Himmler to organize such a reassignment. My training? I was not personally treated badly because I was Danish. I was trained at an officer school where everyone was treated with respect and there was no pointless drill like, for example, at West Point. How difficult was it for me? I can say with all responsibility that the training I got in the Danish cavalry was much better than anything in the Waffen SS. The training was very close to the combat situations. During some of the activities we used real ammunition, but only when every one of us already knew perfectly well how to use their weapons and how to find shelter. But actually, such training exercises took place in the Danish army as well. It was strictly forbidden to use abusive words or swear at each other. The honor and dignity of every soldier, whether officer or soldier, was under strict protection. This was due to the strong sense of camaraderie that was fostered in the Waffen SS. A spirit of mutual respect prevailed. Many commanders were characterized by a certain charisma, and their soldiers were willing to follow them into hell and back. As winter came in November 1942, I was reassigned to Aufklärungsabteilung 8 as a platoon commander. The reconnaissance battalion became a ski battalion, and quite an interesting string of combat operations began for us. It was similar to the combat operations of the Finnish ski troops. The forest warfare is different from conventional warfare. The latter has all the firepower of artillery, mortars, machine guns, and other heavy weapons behind you. In forest combat, you're on your own. In the forest, we used mostly rifles, machine guns, and grenades. Mostly, you move with the enemy in circles close to each other. Such a deadly version of the hide-and-seek game. On December 1st, 1942, I was given the Iron Cross 2nd Class for a combat patrol in the woods. At that time, we ran into a whole battalion of Russians. I had to find out how deep the Russians had entered the woods. We killed several Russians, losing one man in combat, and brought with us 6 captives, 2 of them sergeants. In the Training Airborne Company, 1944. Since I had some experience of air flying in my civilian life, due to my overall interest in aviation and the fact that I was not too fond of infantry service, as I had been in the cavalry in my youth and in reconnaissance units before joining the 24th Panzergrenadier Regiment, Denmark, I volunteered to be reassigned to the SS Fallschirmjäger Parachute Airborne Battalion. The Denmark Regiment was still having too many politicians from the now-gone Denmark Corps, something I could not like at all. My request for reassignment was granted. Originally, some of those who joined the battalion were guys from penalty units sent here to restore their reputation in battle. But when I arrived at the training company, there were already no more guys of that kind in it. Most consisted of volunteers. The unit was stationed in the town of Papa in Hungary, near a squadron of Luftwaffe transport planes and a Hungarian Army airborne parachute unit, commanded by a major. Although we were all provided with a full set of parachuting equipment, such as jump boots, overalls, specialized helmets, etc., the lack of fuel for the planes resulted in the fact that I never had to go on training jumps. Our duties weren't too difficult, and the weather was nice. We used to spend our free time at the swimming pool or at the local wine bars listening to music and eating goulash. One morning, we noticed a group of American bombers flying above our head toward the town of Wiener Neustadt and its factories. While our discussion was going on about the ease with which the enemy was breaking into German airspace, a large group, 30 or 40 of our planes, appeared in the sky and launched an attack. We could see the empty shell casings dropping to the ground, glistening in the sun. 3 enemy planes were shot down in the air battle. Then, one of the Messerschmitt 109s that had just won the air battle flew over us, shaking its wings, and landed. We found out later that it was running out of fuel. We were kind of expecting the pilot of the plane to be one of the Ace Knight's Cross recipients, but he turned out to be a 19-year-old private. With a big smile on his face, he reported that it was his 4th victory in 3 weeks, and that his father, a test pilot, would be happy. We invited the pilot to the officer's dining room and treated him to the best food. With their full bomb load still on board, the knocked-down American bombers exploded as they fell to the ground. However, some of the pilots succeeded in parachuting out and were captured by the Hungarians. The same day later, I got orders to leave for the Hungarian barracks. Someone found out that I spoke English, so I was asked to help interrogate the captured Americans, albeit it was actually the responsibility of the Luftwaffe soldiers themselves. Obersturmbannführer Leifheit and Untersturmführer Dräger from the SS were already there. Those Americans got nervous as they saw the SS skull and bones on our caps. It was obvious they thought the SS had come looking for them. But I calmed them down and told them we were not police or Gestapo, just soldiers. I asked their names, dates, and places of birth, and obtained the usual information, which they willingly shared. Then I attempted to ask what units they were from, what type of airplanes, etc. Of course, there was no answer. And then one of them, a junior lieutenant, asked, "If you were in our place, would you answer these questions?" "Certainly not," I replied, "and I don't expect any such thing from you." They asked what would happen next, and I explained that their next of kin and the International Red Cross would be informed of their fate, and that they would be probably handed over to the Luftwaffe. I told them they were lucky to fall into the hands of regular soldiers. The citizens of towns and villages, if parachuted pilots from destroyed bombers were caught before the military or police arrived, would often simply tear them to pieces. The aircrew of our planes were even given special armbands with the inscription Deutsche Luftwaffe to stop them from being killed by the German civilians. Within a few days, I received orders to report to the SS Führungshauptamt, SS Central Headquarters in Berlin, where I was criticized for my so-called friendly attitude towards the prisoners of war. I replied that I had treated them the way I expected to be treated if I ended up a prisoner of war myself. Most memorable battle. My most memorable battle was on St. Patrick's Day, March 17, 1945, near Székelyhova in Hungary. I was in the rank of Obersturmführer and served as adjutant to SS Sturmbannführer Fritz Vogt, who was a recipient of the Knight's Cross with oak leaves. The day before, the Russians had launched an assault, and it happened on the day of Fritz Vogt's 27th birthday. Our unit was named SS Panzer Aufklärungsabteilung. I set up a command post in a small house and established communications. We came under artillery fire. Herbert Autogilla telephoned us and congratulated Vogt on his birthday, informing us that he had just been given the oak leaves to his Knight's Cross. Vogt's eyes lit up, and he proclaimed, "That's a good thing to toast to." We had more than one glass to drink when the intendant officers showed up with bottles of beer. This is when all the officers began to drop by to have a quick drink. But the war was going on as usual. One of the company commanders had some trouble with the advancing enemy, and I suggested to Vogt that he should make his way to his disposition to sort out the troubles. Vogt laughed and then said, "What's the matter with you? You feel a little heroic today?" I answered him that he had just gotten a new award and now had to let others have a chance to earn the honor. He said as follows, "All right, but look sharp." By this time we had had a good drink and were in great spirits. I got into a half-tracked armored personnel carrier, SD KFZ 259, which was equipped with 20mm guns and headed to the front line. Entering the battle, we opened fire with all the barrels. Before long, however, the Russians pulled up an anti-tank gun and hit my armored personnel carrier, making us jump out of it. This ended in hand-to-hand combat. I had a Faustpatron, but it malfunctioned. I had to use it as a cudgel, and I crushed the skull of one of the Russians. Still, the whole situation for me was bad. But then Fritz Vogt showed up with several armored personnel carriers and saved me. He ordered me to get a break for a couple of hours, and then I set off on a reconnaissance mission behind the front line, all by myself. I was awarded the Iron Cross for all this. Yeah, that guy Fritz Vogt was the real deal. Fritz Vogt will later be mortally wounded in an Allied air attack. On May 8th, the Viking Division surrendered to the advancing American troops. From May 8, 1945 to September 16, 1947, Brorup remained a prisoner of war in the hands of the Americans. On November 9, 1947, he was handed over to Danish authorities, whereupon he was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for his SS service. On June 2, 1948, he was released because the time in captivity was taken into account. Brorup began flight training not long after his release, as he had some experience as a pilot before the war. He was instructed by former RAF pilots. Later, he served in civil aviation in Denmark and Germany before emigrating to Canada in 1956. He worked in civil aviation in northern Canada and its Arctic regions, serving as a flight instructor and examiner for 11 years. He also had the opportunity to serve in the Canadian Armed Forces during 1959 to 60 in flying and reconnaissance ground units. That will be all for today. Remember to rate the video and give it a like. Goodbye everyone, and see you all again.